The first 30 seconds of this game sets the mood for the entire game. The server that I chose to play on is called Literus, and the first character that I recruit, one of the main heroines, is called Virginia. These devs could not have made it any more evident that they've never had a girlfriend in their life. Hey, my name is Stix and welcome back to another episode of Worst Gacha Ever. The purpose of the Worst Gacha Ever series is not to solely criticize a game, nor is it to praise it unconditionally. Rather, this video series exists as a means with which to both critique and to complement various facets of a gacha game that I experienced over a set period of time. Sometimes days, sometimes months. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification because YouTube told me that if you don't, well, no Literus server or Virginia NPC for you. Oh, and make sure to check out the last episode in this series at the end of the video. Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of the absolute chads and chadettes that support this channel via Patreon. You're all freaking legends. Seriously, each and every single one of you. I would offer to give each of you a kiss, but I suffer from severe intimacy issues. Additionally, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest MMO, gacha, and gaming news, take a second here to follow Mrs. Stix and I over on Twitter. We tweet daily. Upon beginning Sultai, you'll quickly come to realize that this is not your typical gacha game. On the contrary, Sultai is a dungeon-crawling dating sim with roguelike elements developed by Chinese developer IQI Games and published by Lemon Sun Entertainment. Within the first 10 minutes, I was dodging spikes emerging from the earth attempting to pierce me like your average protagonist in a hentai. I guess if I'm going to end up repeatedly pounded by something, then it might as well be to the soothing background music present within this game. This is a kind of music that I could play to slowly fall asleep to at night. Sultai, while not your typical gacha game, still functions primarily like the vast majority of gacha RPGs that I've played. There are several chapters. I made it through chapter 3 at present. Each chapter has various stages, and each stage has to be completed manually. There is no autoplay outside of the combat, which is admittedly horrendous when handled by the AI, which I'll touch on in just a little bit. Every stage has different mechanics. Some involve dodging spikes, there were memory puzzles, mysteries you needed to solve. Very few stages were as simple as just eliminate a monster, which made for a refreshing change of pace. Aided by the lack of autoplay, this made it a necessity to actually play the game. I spent my time becoming invested in what was transpiring. I was required to pay attention to clues that were left around the stages, lest I forget them and suffer penalties in the form of group damage. While the stages all provided different experiences, they still followed the same formula. You would move along a linear path with diverging points, complete the puzzles, while engaging several enemies before culminating in a larger boss encounter, after which you'd simply move on to the next one. Gacha games aren't really known for their innovative mechanics or features. Traditionally, you have what I can only describe as an overworld menu. From there, you can access all of the game modes found within the game. While true in Sultai, there was one mode that I found to stand out from the rest: the ability to explore the kingdom that the game is set within. You can visit a variety of different districts: the Terrace, Forest, 11th Order Branch, the Waterfront, Central Square, Trade District, Literus Harbor, Dumpshire, Ruins, and our personal home. Every area is crafted beautifully and has its own unique aesthetic. The Waterfront has a cute hotel by the river. The Terrace is a gorgeous garden near the center of the town. Dumpshire is where the riffraff all live. And then we have our home, a mansion for all of our waifus to live in together. Now, whether they all get along or not is another story altogether. There is a lot you can do here, but with how much time and attention this game takes running through dungeons, and how much I loathe micromanaging headquarters in gacha games, I tended to ignore it. I know you can craft I know you can cook, and you can grow plants and vegetables. You can talk to your waifus, you can trigger cutscenes with them, learn more of their backstory, but you can also do that by utilizing the bond feature. Yes, you're capable of bonding with your waifus. You can give them gifts to raise their affinity levels, you can trigger events, learn about who they are, about who they were, what they went through. You can stare at them with intense longing and desire from a distance, slowly approach them and, well, I mean, you know, they're pretty receptive to whatever. I would suggest before doing anything, you at the very least take them out on a date, as you can continue to increase their affinity and you'll gain new date options. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get lucky. Oh, I struggled so hard to say that with a straight face. You guys have no idea. Otherwise, though, I guess you only need one hand to hold up your phone, right? Your waifus themselves, dolls as they're referred to in Sultide, all have their own strengths and weaknesses. Every doll I acquired started at 1 star and could be ascended up to 5 stars. This allows for every doll to be competitive. There are a plethora of ways that you can go about increasing their overall strength, leveling, ascension, skill upgrades, sigils, and beyond that, verves. Verves and dolls are the gacha in this game. Verves are cards that you can equip onto your dolls that provide various statistical benefits. As an example, the Spear of Destiny provides a large sum of base HP and attack with a 4% attack buff. It also increases critical hit damage by 12%, meaning you'll want this on a DPS, as opposed to the Aegis of Bravery that is more of a defensive or supportive verve. All of these features add additional layers of depth and complexity to an already largely complex game. And if I'm being honest, I feel like this is an enormous step in the right direction. More customization is never a negative thing. The combat itself, though, is very basic. You deploy your dolls and you have them engage enemies. Your dolls have several unique abilities: single target damage, AoE damage, single target heals, AoE heals, buffs, debuffs. Building the right kind of team is important. You absolutely need to have a healer in your group. I had 2 because the damage output from enemies was just exponentially higher than my team could take. That could, of course, be because I went for the hottest waifus as opposed to the most beneficial composition for my group, but really, can you blame me when my waifus looked like this? I did note that the AI combat was horrible, and that is because it is. Being in direct control of my dolls resulted in almost flawless completion of battles, whereas leaving battles in the hands of the AI left me dead repeatedly. On the one hand, enemies love to single out Netsuki, and my healers would rather focus on attacking than keeping Netsuki alive. The AI would balance their attacks, meaning that it would spread out damage between several different targets, as opposed to singling one out and taking them down one by one, reducing the overall damage output. And my characters with support abilities would literally just waste their time buffing more than they'd attack. It was an abhorrent, catastrophic experience, and I do not think I'd ever let the AI control my characters again. I value my time, and this was a waste of it. Honestly, Sultide was significantly better than I had ever thought it'd be. The story, while excessive at times, wasn't bad. I skipped a lot of unnecessary exposition because I genuinely felt like I knew what was going on, and the amount of conversation that transpired during battles got to be too much for me to handle. The combat required you to pay attention. If you let the AI handle it, you'd end up dead, but given I'm a fan of manually playing my games, this was definitely a positive for me. Aesthetically, the different areas around the kingdom were absolutely stunning. I can honestly say that this has some of the most incredible looking vistas that I've seen in a gacha game of this kind. And all of this is completely disregarding how much fun, but at the same time how frustrating the manual dungeon crawling and puzzle solving can at times be. Frustrating to overcome, but satisfying when you do manage to get through it. Case in point, on screen right now. Would I play this full time? Honestly, no. This requires a little too much time for me to really pursue long term. I like to tackle games slowly, casually, and I don't feel like that's necessarily possible with this game, as every stage took 20 minutes to complete. But this game nonetheless is a gem in an ocean full of mediocre games. Now, if you're looking for the previous episode in the Worst Gacha Ever series, you can find that via this video right here, or if you're looking for a list of the most populated gacha games right now, then this video right here has you covered.